How were they built? What secrets do they hide?
Okay, buckle up for this deep dive. We are heading to ancient Egypt to stand before structures that seem to, well, defy belief. Structures that have captivated humanity for thousands of years. The pyramids.
Absolutely. I mean, just the word. It conjures up these incredible images, doesn't it? They're global icons.
Totally. Probably the most recognized ancient monuments anywhere. And what's wild is even after all this time, all the study, they still hold so many secrets.
That's the fascination, isn't it? There are still fundamental questions we're grappling with.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing today. We've gone through this great stack of sources you provided, articles, notes, research, and our mission really is to pull out the key insights, the stuff that helps you actually get a grasp on the whole pyramid story.
Right. We'll look at where they came from, how their purpose changed, tackle that huge question of how they were built.
The big one.
Yeah, the big one. Then we'll journey through the main sites and finally touch on those mysteries that just keep pulling us back.
Okay, let's do it. So everyone knows Giza, but pyramids didn't just spring up like that, fully formed. Where does this story actually begin?
It's a really great story, actually, an evolution. The sources show it starts way before the pyramids we usually picture. Think simple burial mounds first, pre-dynastic tumuli.
Just mounds of earth.
Pretty much. Then around, 5,000 years ago, early dynastic period, you get mastabas.
Right, those flat-topped, kind of bench-shaped tombs, often mud brick.
Exactly that, bench-like tombs. But here's something cool one source points out. Mastaba 3808 at Saqqara, First Dynasty. Inside the main structure, they found something. Well, something shaped like a small step pyramid, built separately inside.
No way. So the idea was kind of incubating, hidden.
Kind of, like the seed was there, tucked away, and then bam, the big leap, the step pyramid of Djoser.
Okay, now we're talking Saqqara, right? Third Dynasty.
That's one. Around 2630 BCE, it's generally seen as the world's oldest major structure built using dressed stone.
Dressed stone meaning cut and shaped properly, not just rough boulders.
Precisely. A total game changer, moving to stone on that scale. And the way it was built is fascinating too. It didn't start as a pyramid.
Oh.
No. It began as a square mastaba shape. Then they added layers, like accretion layers, one on top of the other, each smaller than the last.
So like stacking boxes, getting smaller as you go up.
That's a good way to picture it, creating that stepped look, incrementally.
Okay, so it grew. And the purpose, it wasn't just about burial anymore, was it? It got deeper.
Much deeper. Yeah, they were tombs, primarily, especially in the Old and Middle Kingdoms. But the symbolism was huge. The sources talk about the benben.
The primordial mound from the creation myths.
Exactly. The first bit of land to emerge from the chaos waters. A powerful symbol of creation. And think about this. Many were originally encased in polished white limestone.
Wow, they must have gleamed in the sun.
Absolutely blinding, probably. Their names even reflect that the southern shining pyramid, Sinisret shines. It's thought they represented the sun's rays coming down.
Hey.
Pathway.
A pathway, like a launch ramp for the pharaoh.
Sort of. The sources call them resurrection machines. Powerful engines for the pharaoh's soul to journey to the afterlife, to be reborn among the gods. The steps themselves could be a stairway to heaven.
A stairway. That makes sense of the shape.
And there's more. Those narrow shafts inside the Great Pyramid, one source points out they weren't random. They aimed directly at the circumpolar stars.
The stars that never set up north.
Yes. For the Egyptians, that part of the sky, the bit everything else revolved around, represented eternity. So those shafts, maybe magical channels, to shoot the pharaoh's soul straight to eternal life.
Wow.
And the pharaoh making that journey successfully, that was believed to guarantee Egypt's own stability and prosperity. It was vital.
That totally reframes them. Not just monuments, but like cosmic engines. And the location mattered too, didn't it? West Bank of the Nile.
Always the West Bank, almost without exception. The West was where the sun set, the land of the dead in their mythology. It all fits together.
Okay, so Djoser's steps. Then how did we get the classic smooth-sided pyramids?
That's the next big phase. Fourth Dynasty. You see them experimenting at Mitam, then really pushing it at Dashur with Sneferu. He was Khufu's father.
Sneferu? He built more than one.
Oh, yeah. He was prolific. He built the bent pyramid at Dashur where they clearly had to adjust the angle midway up. A learning curve right there in stone.
Huh. You can literally see them figuring it out.
Exactly. But then he nailed it with the red pyramid just nearby.
Yeah.
That's considered the first successful, true, smooth-sided pyramid. It's huge. Still the third largest.
So Fourth Dynasty, Sneferu, then Khufu at Giza. that was the peak.
Absolutely. The peak in terms of scale and precision. After the Fourth Dynasty, things changed.
Also, a decline.
Generally, yeah. The sources mention Fifth Dynasty pyramids, and later ones are often smaller. The construction may be less meticulous. They started using rubble fill for the core, sometimes mud brick, just faced with a thinner layer of limestone.
Why the change? Running out of money? Less powerful pharaohs?
Probably a mix of things. Shifting resources, maybe changing religious ideas. Perhaps the central power wasn't quite as absolute as during the Giza phase. It tells you something changed in the state itself.
Interesting. And Egypt didn't have a monopoly on pyramids forever, did it?
No, not at all. Much later, you get the Kushite pharaohs from Nubia, modern Sudan. When they ruled Egypt in the 25th dynasty, they adopted pyramid building for themselves back home.
So they built them in Sudan?
Yes, at sites like El Kuru and Nuri. And later, in the Meroitic period, there was a real boom in pyramid building down there. Smaller, steeper pyramids, but hundreds of them. The tradition spread and adapted.
Fascinating how ideas travel. Okay, we've got the why and the what's. Let's hit that massive how. How on earth did they build these things?
Right, this is where you really have to appreciate the scale. We're talking millions of blocks of stone.
Millions. And they weren't pebbles.
Not even close. The average block, sources say, is over 2 tons. But some of the granite beams inside the Great Pyramid, over 80 tons?
80 tons. I can't even picture lifting that today easily. Where did they get all this stone?
Most of the main structural stone was quarried locally, which makes sense. Easier logistics. But the really special stuff.
Like the white casing limestone.
Exactly. From Tura, south of Cairo, or the hard granite for Chambers, all the way from Aswan in the south. That had to travel huge distances.
How? On the Nile?
Yep, on massive barges.
Yeah.
And we know this. It's not just a guess. The discovery in 2013 of the Diary of Mirror papyri was groundbreaking.
Oh, yeah. The oldest known papyrus, right? A logbook.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Written by an official, Mirror, over 4,500 years ago. It details the day-to-day work of boating limestone blocks from the Tura quarries, down the Nile, through canals, right to the Giza Plateau for Khufu's pyramid.
Wow. Like a reading an ancient shipping manifest? That's incredible proof.
It really is. Direct evidence of the supply chain in action.
Okay, so river transport for the fancy stuff. But moving the local blocks and getting them up the pyramid, that's the killer part.
Still debated in terms of exact methods, but the sources point strongly in certain directions. For moving them across land, probably wooden sleds.
Sleds on sand, that sounds hard.
Ah, but here's the clever bit. Research confirms an ancient technique, even shown in tomb paintings. Wetting the sand right in front of the sled.
Wetting it, wouldn't that make it bog down?
You'd think so. But apparently just the right amount of water makes the sand grains stick together, capillary bridges, they call it. It drastically reduces friction, maybe halves the effort needed.
Seriously, that's genius. Simple physics, but brilliant.
It shows a really sophisticated practical understanding, doesn't it? Okay, so sleds on damp sand gets the blocks to the base, lifting them up. Ramps are the main theory.
What kind of ramps?
Different ideas, maybe a long, straight ramp up one side, or a ramp that corkscrews around the outside. Some even suggest internal ramps built inside the pyramid's body and spiraling up.
Internal ramps. Wow, that sounds complicated to build as you go.
Very. But it would solve the problem of needing a gigantic external ramp, which would be almost as big a construction project as the pyramid itself. The sources also mention levers potentially being used, maybe for smaller lifts or final positioning.
Okay, so ramps seem likely, maybe combined with levers. And who did the work? Was it slaves, like in the movies?
No. The evidence from workers' villages near the pyramids, their tombs, the papyri, it all points to organized crews of Egyptian laborers. Skilled workers, conscripts maybe, doing national service. They were housed, fed, got medical care. It was a massive state project, not slave labor.
That changes the picture completely.
Yeah.
So let's talk location. You said West Bank. How many pyramids are actually in Egypt?
The numbers vary a bit, depending on what you count. Small ones, ruined ones, but sources suggest at least 118, maybe up to 138 identified so far.
Whoa, way more than just the famous ones.
Oh, yes. Many are in pretty rough shape now, look more like rubble mounds. And discoveries are still being made. Archaeologists recently identified a possible pyramid for Queen Neith, wife of Teti, and rediscovered one called the Headless Pyramid.
Still finding pyramids. That's amazing. Okay, where are the main hotspots, the key pyramid fields?
They stretch along the Nile's west bank. The superstar, of course, is Giza.
Can't talk pyramids without Giza.
Exactly. You've got the Great Pyramid of Khufu, biggest, last ancient wonder standing, originally about 481 feet high. Then Khafre's pyramid looks nearly as tall because it's on higher ground. And it still has some of that smooth white casing at the very top.
You can see how they originally looked.
A little glimpse, yeah. And the Sphinx guarding it, of course. Then Munkara's pyramid, the smallest of the three, maybe half the height of Khufu's, but the sources say it was beautifully finished.
What do you mean beautifully finished?
Well, for instance, its lower levels were cased in granite. Granite is incredibly hard, much harder to work than limestone. So even if it was smaller, the craftsmanship involved was top tier. Shows they still had incredible skill.
And Giza wasn't just about size, right? The alignment.
Phenomenal. The precision is staggering. Khufu's pyramid is aligned to true north almost perfectly. And those internal shafts pointing to stars, it shows a deep, deep understanding of astronomy and surveying. They were locked into the cosmos.
Mind-bending. Okay, Giza's the peak. But you said Saqqara was the start.
Saqqara, yes, further north.
Yeah.
That's where Djoser built the first step pyramid. It's really the cradle of Egyptian stone architecture. But Saqqara is huge, used for centuries. You find later Old Kingdom pyramids like Userkaf's and Teti's, Unis's pyramid, with the first pyramid texts inside.
Texts inside the pyramid?
Yes, hieroglyphic spells and prayers covering the walls of the burial chamber, meant to help the king in the afterlife, a major development. Saqqara also has Sekhemkhet's unfinished step pyramid, maybe intended to be bigger than Djoser's, and even a later king, Shepseskaf, who built a giant mastaba instead of a pyramid. Lots of variety.
A real laboratory for pyramid ideas. Where next after Saqqara?
Head south a bit to Dashur. That's Neferu's territory. We mentioned his bent pyramid, the one with the angle change.
The practice run.
Kind of. And then his masterpiece, the red pyramid nearby. The first successful smooth one. Dashur is crucial for seeing that transition happen.
Got it. And what about Medum, the tower-like one?
That's Medum. Also linked to Sneferu, maybe started by his predecessor. It began as a step pyramid. They tried converting it to a true one, but disaster. It suffered a major collapse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what you see today is just the inner core sticking up out of a huge pile of rubble from the collapsed outer layers. A real reminder that they were pushing the limits and sometimes it didn't work out.
A stark visual of the learning process. And then you mentioned later sites where quality may be dipped?
Right, places like Lisht, which was near the capital in the Middle Kingdom, and Abu Sir, the main burial ground for the 5th dynasty kings. Their pyramids are generally smaller, use more rubble fill, less precise than the 4th dynasty giants at Giza.
The Abu Sir pyramids, they really show that shift.
They do. Still impressive, but clearly different priorities or resources compared to the Giza builders. Further south again, you get Mazguna, Hawara, El Lahun. These have Middle Kingdom pyramids, often mud brick cores, many heavily eroded now. El Lahun is interesting. It used a natural limestone hill as part of its foundation.
Clever use of the landscape. It's amazing how many sites there are, each telling part of the story. Okay, let's shift to the enduring mysteries. Hidden chambers, weird theories.
Ah, yes, the allure of the unknown. Even with all we know, the insides of these structures, especially the Great Pyramid, are complex. Passages, the King's Chamber, Queen's Chamber, the huge Grand Gallery, and people have wondered for ages what else is in there.
Secret rooms, buried treasure, the stuff of legends.
Pretty much. The idea of hidden voids, lost chambers, it never goes away. And guess what? Modern science is actually finding things. Our sources mention muon tomography.
Using cosmic rays to see inside.
Exactly, like an X-ray for pyramids. And at the Great Pyramid, it has detected large, previously unknown voids. There's a big one above the Grand Gallery. We don't know what it is or why it's there, but it proves there's more to find.
Wow. So technology is confirming there are hidden spaces. What about, say, the Queen's Chamber? What was that for?
Good question. Despite the name, most Egyptologists doubt it was for a queen. It has its own sealed shafts, like the king's chambers, pointing towards stars. Was it symbolic? Ritualistic? Part of the resurrection machine? We still don't really know its true function? Another puzzle.
And the precision. You mentioned it, but how did they get things so perfect?
That remains one of the biggest question marks. The near-perfect alignment, the incredibly fine joins between massive blocks, the leveling.
Yeah.
Was it just generations of accumulated skill with simple tools like plumb bobs and water levels? Or did they have other techniques, other knowledge we haven't figured out?
So the how is still partly mysterious, especially the fine-tuning.
The broad strokes, ramps, sleds, labor seem likely based on evidence. But achieving that level of precision consistently across such a massive scale with the tools we know they had, it still inspires awe and, yeah, leaves room for debate about the specifics.
And we haven't even touched the Sphinx. Maybe another time.
Definitely another deep dive needed there.
It really feels like these monuments were built to last and to keep secrets. They've survived millennia, tourists since Roman times, even attempts to tear them down. That story about Al-Aziz Uthman in the 12th century trying to demolish the Menkaure pyramid?
And basically giving up because it was just too difficult. Shows their incredible resilience. They are just profound statements of belief, power, and ingenuity.
This has been incredible. We've gone from simple mounds to Giza's giants, looked at purpose, construction, the key sites, and the mysteries still swirling around them.
They really aren't just stone piles, are they? They're portals to another time, another way of thinking, challenging us, making us wonder.
Absolutely. So here's something for you, our listeners, to think about. We see clear evidence of advanced knowledge, astronomy, engineering, logistics. We see precision that's hard to explain. We know there are still hidden voids. What else might the ancient Egyptians have known or been capable of that we just haven't uncovered yet? What other secrets are still buried under the sand or locked inside the stone?
The quest continues. Keep exploring. Keep asking questions.